Okay, so good afternoon. So we are here for the live session for electronic waste management course, which is being offered in this particular semester. So for e-waste course, as you know, it's a 4-week course. So there will be only one live session. So I encourage each one of you who are online, please put your questions up there. So the way we do it, as if you have taken some of the other online courses, if you have done that NPTEL courses, first we look at there was a Dropbox link which was sent to you. So we will look at the questions which came there. So I'll try to answer that, and then whatever the live questions coming in, we'll try to answer those. And if there are some questions we have also picked up from the discussion forum, which we may be able to answer depending on we have already answered it on this discussion forum, but over here we will try to answer it again if time permits. So let's get started. So first question, which is from the Dropbox link, is from Saswata Mukherjee, and the question is actually question is more of administrative question that I want to know in certificate examination what will be the question type, MCQ or descriptive type. So we actually cannot tell you in like how the question paper will be, but it will be what one thing I can tell you, that if you can go through all the quiz, the question paper will be very similar to the what you see, the pattern will be similar to what you see in quizzes. So if you have gone through the quiz properly, if you are looked at those course material properly, you will be fine. So you don't have to worry too much. You will not have to write long answers. It will be simple, very similar to the quiz, weekly quiz that you are taking. Then Amandeep Singh, his question is landfilling pollute the soil or underground water? Yes, it does. That's if again landfilling. The way we are doing landfilling in India today is essentially most of them are dump sites, actually almost all of them, but there are very few engineered landfills available in India. So since they are mostly dump sites, those dump sites does not have a proper liner system at the bottom. So yes, the leachate produced can percolate down and can contaminate the groundwater. There has been documented cases of groundwater contamination from those waste disposal dump sites in India and also abroad. So it has potential to pollute groundwater. It can also pollute the soil because once the leachate passes through that to the subsurface, the soil below this landfill, below these dump sites. I am using landfill and dump sites interchangeably because in India we do that, but landfill, when we say, it's actually an engineered structure, it's not the dump site. So if your question is on looking at the engineered structure, then theoretically yes, soil and groundwater pollution can take place, but since there is a lot of control in engineered landfill, the chances are less. In dump sites, chances are much higher because the control is missing over there. So I hope it answers your question. Any further you can ask me right now if you have any further questions on that live chat. So the next one is Basava Prabhu. He says that city level lead extraction from old PCBs is possible. If so, how it can be achieved? So yes, printed circuit boards, you can extract lead from there. In fact, if you have gone through the material, or it will be there in your if it's not covered yet, it's there in your video lectures that you will see. We do go over the hydrometallurgical process and pyrometallurgical process, different processes in which essentially what we do, we try to take the lead which is there in the solid form, bring it to the liquid form by some form of leaching, and then again we try to bring it back to a more pure form and solidify it and bring it out of the solution, and that could be a pure lead, as much pure as we can based on some of the impurities there, and that can be used for different applications. So yes, can be done. It can be achieved. There are processes which is out there, which is outlined in the course material. Please look at that, and if you don't understand any of those material, put the question on discussion forum and we'll be able to answer that to you. Susma Satigari, its question is I am electronics and communication engineer. I am able to understand your lecture with my interest. I have chosen this course, but I don't have a background of civil or environmental science. Difficult to remember many chemical components, metals. Am I able to take up the exam only based on your given material, or anything extra is needed? So if you have gone through the given material, in detail, if you have listened to the lectures properly, if you have taken all the quizzes, you should be fine for the exam for most part. So, you will be okay for the exam. So, you do not have to worry about too much about that. Anything extra you learn, it's always better. If you just go on Google and put on electronic waste management, you will find lots of information out there nowadays. So, reading them, since you have taken this course, that means you are interested in this area. So, if you read those material, that's always going to help you. So, but in terms of the course and the certification exam, you should be okay if you just go through the course material in depth and in detail with everything that is provided to you. Second question is this, with e-waste being so hazardous, why a systemic and organized precautions are not carried out in spite of making rules by the government? Why a separate e-waste carrier is not sent to collect e-waste from the public as they collect for other garbage? Very good question. So, I will go by maybe the second one first. Why separate e-waste carrier? See, e-waste that is produced in individual homes is not that much, like if and say whenever you have e-waste, the carrier, the municipalities or the city does not really know that you have your e-waste to be disposed of. So, what many countries, and in fact I think I mentioned that in the course as well, what many countries around the world does, they have a like a hazardous waste collection center, where you as an individual can bring your electronic waste and drop off there. What they check is only your driver license or some sort of ID which tells you that you belong to that particular city or particular area, because that collection center is being funded by the money, the taxpayers' money coming from that particular area, from the local taxes. So, if you are from that area, they will take it free. If you are not from that area, they will charge you some money. But it does get collected. It is like it can be done that way. But sending a truck every day to individual houses, where maybe out of 100 houses, maybe only 1 or 2 has e-waste, will economically will not make sense. So, it's that's why it is not done that way. But what can be done, which is also done in some parts of the world, is they do a special collection event. So, once in 6 months or once in say 3 months, depending on the type of the demographics type based on, because they have some idea about how much e-waste could be produced from that area. So, based on that, every 3 months or every 6 months, they will announce that, say, this Sunday we have a e-waste collection, and then the e-waste truck will come on that particular Sunday. Everybody can put their e-waste out and that e-waste will be collected out. So, those things are being done. It's not it is being collected from the homes once in a 3 months, 6 months event, and it also done through what is known as the drop-off collection center or household hazardous waste collection center, where you can drop off e-waste and some other household hazardous waste as well. So, those are the way usually the collection is being done for e-waste. So, that's your that kind of helps. I think that should help you for your second part of the second question. The first part of your second question, where you talk about that e-waste being so hazardous, why a systemic and organized precautions are not carried out in spite of making rules. So, that's actually the it's more of an operational, more of an implementation problem, which is there in many rules that we have made. We have one of the best rules in the world, but we are not implementing it properly because we do not have its lack of infrastructure is also there. So, if you see if there is if you have seen the e-waste management rules, it requires that there has to be authorized recyclers in where you can give your e-waste. You should be able to call to those recyclers, and you can either go and drop off or they come and pick it up from your home. But in many cities and towns, you will find that authorized recyclers are not there. So, people are not coming forward to take up this stuff, because e-waste, as I mentioned in the class as well, nearly 90 to 95% of the e-waste in India is still going to the informal sector. Problem is with us as well. As a citizen of this country, we also have a problem that we expect that whenever we will dispose an e-waste, we will get some money. And unfortunately, that does not really happen, because if you want to do e-waste management in a scientific way, in an environmental friendly way, because those informal sector, they will take the material from you, they will try to salvage whatever they can salvage from there, and the rest they will just work in a very crude way, using all those aquaresia and all those stuff, and whatever they can valuable resource, they will take it out, rest they will just dump it into the environment. So that becomes a problem, because and since this informal sector doesn't have to really follow that, they do have to follow the rules and regulation, but kind of they get away with that. If you have a formal industry which has a address, which has to maintain that all those rules and regulations, which has to do all those filing, all those reporting to the Central Pollution Control Board, to the State Pollution Control Board, it becomes difficult for them to give us some money when we drop off, say, for our mobile, for our laptop and other things, because they have already put so much money in setting up that infrastructure. So if they start paying money to us as well, so the economics does not work for them. And that's how, if you go to Japan, which is considered one of the best in terms of e-waste management. If you go to Europe, Western European countries, if you go to US or Canada, people actually have to pay to get rid of e-waste. So if you have an old laptop, in Canada you pay, when I was kind of living there, you have to pay close to around $20 to $25 as a waste disposal fee for the laptop. When you buy a new laptop, they charge you $25 extra, and that $25 goes towards that waste management, e-waste management fund. Here, when we give the old laptop away, we expect to get 400, 600, 1,000, 1,500 rupees for them. So we cannot expect the service, kind of the work they have in, say, in those North American or Australia and other countries, without paying for similar money. So we have to pay, and since the lack of payment, we are so much, we don't really want to pay, and that's one of the reasons why you see that implementation is also an issue, because waste pay, that the user fee has to be there, and that has to be paid. But that's one part. Other part is also in terms of having proper infrastructure, having proper trucks and all that, and most of the ULBs are struggling. Things are getting better, but still things have to improve a lot. So that's kind of the questions that I had from those Dropbox link, which was, we just looked at it around 15 minutes back. So if you have put your questions before 15 minutes before the start of this live session, so if you have posted your question after 4:30, please post it again on the chat box so that we can be able to answer those. So let's start getting into those chat box questions now. Anand Manwar, he has two questions there. Kindly provide more information regarding method of estimation of e-waste. So estimation of e-waste or estimation of any waste component is done through a standard procedure. So what is that procedure? How will you do the estimate? So first of all, you need to know how much waste is being produced in that particular area. So how will you do that? So you need to kind of essentially, you have to there are two ways of doing it. One way is where you say, for example, take an example of Bombay city, or Delhi or Kolkata. So there is a geographical boundary of Bombay city. You have contact, you get the data in terms of all the electronics that is being sold in Bombay city in a particular time frame. Then you also have to have an estimation of what is the life of a typical electronic items, whether it's a cell phone, or your laptops and all those different types of electronic items. What is the life? Is it 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? So based on how much is being sold in a particular time frame, based on how much is their lifespan, we can estimate how much is potentially coming to the waste stream, and we can do it for year after year after year. So that's called material flow analysis approach. That's the material flowing into the system. So that's a material flow analysis approach. The other approach is where you go for source specific approach. Basically, you go to Delhi city, go to all those e-waste facilities, e-waste recycling facilities, dump sites and other places, and just basically get the weight of electronics, look at the components of electronics, do the pie chart, and you just measure everything by yourself, or hire a company which will do that. There are companies out there which does that. That's called the waste audit exercise. That's called waste auditing. So you are getting the garbage sample. Here we are e-waste samples, and then look at how much e-waste is there, whether it's a mobile phone, whether it's a laptop, whether it's any other personal device like an iPad or some PDAs, or you have some big TV, small TVs, or a flat screen. So, you can put it in different categories, printers, scanners. So, you can put it in all those different categories, and then you can come up with a pie chart. So, that will be, that's called source specific approach, but that requires a lot of physical work, which you have to go there, collect the samples and get those things done. Both approaches are used. Physical source specific approach is more accurate because you are doing the primary data collection over there. Material flow analysis is not as accurate as the source specific approach because there is a lot of assumptions there in terms of the shelf life of a product. Shelf life, say for example, mobile phone, typical shelf life may be 3 years, but some people may be keeping it less, some people may be keeping it more, but when you take an average. So, you try to have an estimate. That is why your question also says estimate. So, estimate is not always 100% accurate, but it does give a good picture. So, I think that kind of probably answers your question for you, Anand. So, second, he is saying that can we use ATP systems for recovery of metals? So, I do not know what you mean by ATP systems. Can you just elaborate that, what exactly we are talking about in terms of ATP, and then we will come back to that question when you do that. I hope that you are online right now. So, I will go to the third question, which is from Hitesh. How to improve waste segregation system? It's the only thing you can do is give proper infrastructure, where have a proper bin, which where if you go see, if you travel abroad, you will see that there is a e-waste separate bin. Some places in India also they have started, where you have a separate bin for e-waste, where even different categories of e-waste. You walk into a, say, Reliance electrical kind of shop, those the Reliance, what they call digital or something, or so those big shopping area, where shopping mall, which is a store only focused on electronics item. Just as you enter the electronics item, you will see, if you go to many countries around the world, especially developed countries, you will see they have a trash can which has different components, mobile, laptops and other stuff, based on what components, the holes in the sides, the size of the trash can, the compartment also is bigger or smaller. So, you can go and drop off there, and they take it, and so it is just the human behavior. So, it is a human behavior which is it's needed. We have to do the stuff, and then at the same time providing a proper infrastructure. Both are needed. So, you need to work on human behavior, you need to work on education, you need to work on make the people aware of what is the harmful effects of improper management of e-waste, and at the same time you provide a proper infrastructure so that people are able to do in terms of the source segregation. So, that was for, I focused kind of on electronic waste, but that same thing goes for, since your question is on waste segregation system, probably much broader than the e-waste. We do have a like a waste management course which runs in the other semester starting in July. So, again I am pretty sure that it will run in July 2020. So, you can take that course where we talk about in more detail about the segregation and all that. But just to tell you, since you have asked the question, in terms of municipal solid waste as well, answer is the same. You need to have proper, like at least wet and dry, have the 2 bin system, have a truck which has 2 compartment, or have 2 separate trucks, which one collecting wet, one collecting dry, and then you can take it to waste treatment facilities from there. I think that should answer your question. Then next, Naresh. I am a civil engineering student, how to prepare for GATE through NPTEL videos? That is a very big question. So, maybe if you come to IIT Kharagpur, we can have a cup of coffee and maybe lunch or dinner on that, because it takes a long time to you to answer that. But NPTEL videos will be helpful, pretty much it should help you for your GATE exam. You should look at the GATE syllabus and identify those NPTEL courses which kind of comes under GATE syllabus, because some of the NPTEL courses are more specialized, may not be the whole course may not be included in your GATE syllabus. So, you should look at the GATE syllabus carefully, identify, and you have the syllabus for all the NPTEL courses that is offered from various IITs, IISCs and other places. So, you should try to identify which one will help for you, and I think it is a good, it is not just because like I have several NPTEL courses I am saying that, but I think it is a good medium for many people in the country. Sometimes we also get people abroad, like I was sitting in an airport in Doha just few months back, and then one person walked up to me, I did not knew him, he said, I have taken your waste management course. So So, it really feels nice when somebody says that, but so people are getting help. So, you can also get help from GATE, and but you are always welcome to come to IIT Kharagpur and we can have a detailed discussion on that. And again, Saswat Mukherjee, negative marking will be there in certificate exam? No. Don't worry too much about the exam. Exam is just for you to get a certificate. What is important is what get in your head. So, try to learn the subject. Exam to hota aata jata rehta hai. So, it's negative marking is not there. Don't worry. What will be the medium of the examination? It will be computer based exam. I think this information is already provided to you on that NPTEL website, but yes, it is a computer based exam. So you must have opted for a center by this time. If not, that it will be pretty soon. Ghana Prakash, why can't equipment manufacturer charge a refundable amount of e-waste so as to streamline the collection? They can charge if sees that if every equipment manufacturer charge, then it will be fair. Now, if one company starts charging and the other companies don't charge, then the company which is starts charging, their product price will go up, and then people will start buying stuff, not buying stuff from that company and start buying from somewhere else. Unless other than those people who are really cares about the environment, those who understand the problem of electronic waste management and the improper waste issues and all that. So, it can be done. Many, as I said earlier in one of the answers, it is being done in many countries. Thing is that it has to be mandated. It has to be mandated by the government, where the rules would say that yes, every time you buy a laptop, you have to pay 500 rupees extra or 1000 rupees extra. You can put it a percentage of the laptop price. Those who are paying higher price laptop, they should pay more. Those who are paying low price laptop, they should pay less, but there can be a proportional fee, like we pay GST. It could be included as part of GST. That's what there was a Swachh Bharat cess earlier, which was supposed to be for these kind of purposes, which is now merged with GST. So, it could be part of GST, but or it could be a separate fee, like in many countries they do a separate fee. I always prefer to have a separate fee, because that helps in terms of getting that money to the waste management department, to the e-waste management people. Not when it becomes a general fund, then it all depends who are in power, what they are really interested in, what they want to do with that money. So, it gets lost in many of the other expenses, which and then e-waste management gets into the back burner, because unfortunately environmental issues does not make that much of a noise unless it's a Delhi air pollution or something happened somewhere, and then we all forget. We had a Delhi issue, and now the winter is going away. We'll again talk about Delhi next winter, and we'll do nothing in between. So, that is the crux of the problem. But yes, the equipment manufacturer can be charged they charge for the e-waste for the collection. So, that can be done. What will happen when we dump e-waste in the land? Tushar Katre, that's his question. I can answer you that question, but it looks like just to be a bit blunt, you are not listening to video properly, because this has already been covered in detail in the course. So, when you put it in the land, what will happen? When it's rain, your cadmium, lead and other stuff, which is organic chemicals which will leach off, will get into the soil, can contaminate my surface water, can get into the pond. We talked about that cadmium issue in Japan long back, 50, 60, almost now 70, 75 years ago, where they had that Itai disease because of an industrial affluent carrying cadmium getting into the river, and then getting into those river was used for the paddy fields to grow rice. Whenever you see the rice, it's always in a standing water, the paddies. So, that water had cadmium. Now, cadmium and calcium are very close on the periodic table. So, our rice plant, the paddy cannot differentiate between cadmium and calcium. So, the cadmium got uptaken into the rice, and then when we eat those rice, cadmium got into our body, because our body system also cannot differentiate between cadmium and calcium, and we need calcium in our bones. So, cadmium has started coming to their bones, and then bone got affected, bone got weaker, because cadmium does not do the job of calcium, it does actually the opposite job of calcium, it makes the bone weaker, and the people got a lot of people got affected from there. We also talked about the mercury pollution in one of the videos. So, where mercury, because of the Minamata Bay, that methyl mercury situation. So those are there. You can find tons and tons of examples on the web. Always look at the good sources on the web. Don't Wikipedia is a nice source to start reading, but that's not always authentic. Always try to find good reports, say from World Bank, United Nations, a different country report, different departments report. Always look for the government or credible publications which have certain name there, but otherwise don't look. There will be a lot of things out there which sometimes it's confusing. So if you put e-waste in land, you will contaminate your soil, you can contaminate your surface water, you can also contaminate the groundwater, and many times if you people burn those e-waste on the land just to recover some of those precious metal, and things can go into the air pollution as well. So all those things have been discussed, I think, in the second where we talk about the health impact and all those kind of thing. It is there in your video. So Anand has reposted, can we use aqueous two-phase? Okay, so his aqueous two-phase systems for recovery of metals. So yes, you can do that, where we actually typically, if you again if you looked at those recovery of precious metal slides and the videos which is there as part of the course, we talk in great detail about how it is done. I kind of mentioned that in one of the earlier answers too. So you can go for, essentially what we go for the leaching test. So you have a solid printed circuit boards, you can crush it down. Why you will crush it down? To increase the surface area. So surface area, bigger the surface area, more is the better is the leaching, better is the reaction. So you expose it to acids, you can do a sequential extraction test which is also done, and then you bring these metals into the solution. Now they are in the liquid phase, but they are all mixed together, different metals. So what we will have to do? We have to precipitate them out, taking the advantage of solubility product. So that's how it can be done. So yes, you can use those two-phase leaching, so multiple leaching extraction, sequential extraction test, and all sequential extraction procedures, all those things can be used over here as well. Naresh Babu, I am keen to know the best practice from end-to-end e-waste management which you believe that is suitable for Indian conditions. Best practice for end-to-waste e-waste management suitable for Indian condition. It's again pretty vast question. The parts of this course, the course of the 4-week course kind of just talks about that, where we talk about getting into how the e-waste should be managed, what are the issues of improper e-waste management. So best practices will be collected separately, put a recycling center in place where you dismantle everything. You can get the informal sector involved. One of the things, especially from an Indian context, since there is such a big informal sector working in this area, you cannot shut their shops off. So what's needed is a proper merger, many times I say that it's a marriage of informal and formal sector. So this informal sectors does a wonderful job in terms of the collection from the houses. So they can do that, they collect those from the houses, they can get those recyclers certification and all that as per the SPCB and CPCB norms. Then once it's collected, they can still do the dismantling part, but they have to be trained how to do the dismantling part in an environmental friendly way, so that they should not harm themselves. If you go on YouTube and look at all these informal e-waste recycling processes and some of the interviews that has been done on those people, you will find that they are actually, many of them die, they don't see their 40s. They die even before the age of 40 because of inhaling all those toxic fumes and different metals and organics and other stuff. They get all sorts of disease. So they would also like to have a better life. So, but what's needed is somehow we have to bring this informal sector as a part of a cooperative or something, which has been tried on waste management sector in Pune and other places. Somewhere it's successful, somewhere it is not that successful, but that's what needs to be done. Like we need to get this informal sector, do all this collection stuff and do this dismantling stuff, and then after dismantling, where it comes to the precious metal recovery, where it requires a lot of chemicals and other processes, like where we require really a hardcore engineering stuff, where the informal sector really cannot handle that. That portion needs to be done in a formal environment, in a formal company kind of place, which all that environmental control which so that we do it in a responsible way, we also get the money. Right now what happens is many of these printed circuit boards, after they are dismantled and all, this plastic goes to plastic recyclers, iron goes to the iron recyclers, but most the precious metals ends up either in Japan or Belgium, where they recycle those and they recover those precious metal, and then they make those you have if you have follow the news, you may have heard that in Japan, this Olympics which is coming up in 2020, all the medals that will be made will be from recycled electronic waste. So, it is the precious metal recovered from electronic waste is being used to make all those medals which will be given in Japan Olympics. So, it can be done, it is not that it cannot be done, but that process needs to be set up. The many companies do not come up. There are some companies which are trying, the many companies are struggling because they are not getting e-waste because it goes to the informal sector, and but in terms of the precious metal recovery, not many companies are there out there in India. So, but that is where it needs to do. It requires a lot of investment. So, investment will happen only when there is a surety that they will get the e-waste. Right now there is no surety, so you do not see those e-waste coming in. So, that kind of will give you best that could be a best practice from end to end. Pankaj, what should we do after diploma in computer engineering? Please give some suggestions. That is a wrong question actually. I am neither a computer engineer and have no idea about that. So, only thing I would say is just talk to your college principal or your own professors, they will be able to give you better advice on that. Govind Likhare, how to improve this e-waste management? E-waste is important or not? Of course, e-waste is important. That is why you are there listening to this live session, and that is why I am here, and we have designed this 4-week course and delivered this course. So, of course, e-waste is important. How to improve? We already talked about that in great detail in this as well as in the course too. Tushar Katre, how to recycle e-waste? Just I think while replying to Naresh, best practices end to end, I kind of explained that in more detail, how to recycle. You have to get this, take the e-waste, dismantle it, get the different components. Most of the components when you look at the electronic waste are either you will have glass, which can be goes to glass recycler. So, many of these like glass recyclers already exist. Metal recyclers in terms of iron recycler is already there. Plastic recycler is already there. The problematic part is those mixed plastic that needs to be looked into, and those printed circuit boards, because those printed circuit boards has a lot of heavy metals and other things in there. So, that is where we need to have more that is what is polluting the environment today, because these informal recyclers are trying to extract those precious metal in a very crude way, putting aquarage and all that. You just go on, I think I mentioned that in the class several times too in that videos. You should go on YouTube and look them up. You will find them, it is pretty nasty conditions, and then they get sick. So, that is where we need to have a formal industry, and so that and we will have a better recovery as well. We will not have to send stuff overseas, but we should be able to recover it within our country, and that will create possibly quite a few jobs as well. Anand has come back. How efficient are microorganisms for e-waste management and recovery of precious metal? There are people have worked on bioleaching. There are some work which is being done on bioleaching which have shown potential. I do not know of any plant which is using bioleaching right now. There could be some, because every few years new plants come up, and it is sometimes very difficult to keep track of that. But if you know of any, put it on the discussion forum for the benefit of the students, and we would like to incorporate that in the next course, next offering. But microorganisms can do that. This is essentially again goes back to those bioleaching, bioremediation and all that, and they are possibly it can do that. They can do the precious metal recovery from there. You should be able to find out some papers. How to improve the Saswata Mukherjee, how to improve the e-waste recycling infrastructure in India. Again, I think we just talked about that. We need to have a proper merger of formal, informal, and we need to have recyclers identified, and government has to play some role as well. So, we kind of talked about those already. And Daman Preet, hi, I am from Chandigarh. Please give some details about the exam pattern and negative marking. We already covered it. So, while replying to Sashwat Mukherjee's question earlier, we already covered it. There is no negative marking, and as long as you do your course quizzes well, and there will be a tutorial, watch the tutorial as well. So, it is that if you cover that you will be fine. Tejas, electronic waste or e-waste describe discarded electrical or electronic devices. Yes, that is correct. So, there is no question there. I do not know, is it probably he did not type it. It kind of is e-waste does, yeah, it describes discarded electrical or electronic device. So, it both actually, anything which has a current is which uses batteries or power, that has a considered as e-waste. Ghana Prakash, can you please elaborate on most frequently used quantification of e-waste input output analysis? So, that material flow analysis, if Ghana Prakash, if you have been listening to it from the beginning, I did talk about that material flow analysis. That is essentially that what is the input output analysis. So, I tried to explain that. So, again, but I will very briefly I will say it again. So, what we do, we take a geographical region, say for example, I want to do it for Kolkata. So, I know what is the Kolkata boundary. I know within Kolkata boundary what are the different stores which are selling electronic items. So, these days it becomes slightly difficult as well, because people will buy it from Amazon, Snapdeal and all those stuff. So, but that also can be tracked, how much of that got bought in a Calcutta pin code area. So, we can use that too. So, it is based on that we can find out what is we can get the data from how much electronics was sold in Kolkata area, what were the types of electronics, and what is their typical shelf life. Typical shelf life is estimated based on the survey done prior to that, where we will go and talk to people how quickly you change your cell phone, how quickly your mobile laptop stays, how long you have been using your last TV, when you change your last TV and all that. So, we kind of estimate their life and based on that we will try to find out how much waste will be produced in a particular year, and year after year we can do that. So, that is how it is done, that is your input output analysis, it is there. So, and then I have explained it earlier as well in more detail. So, please go back and listen to that answer if you have not, if you are not there. Hitesh, what could be the most reliable or accurate method to quantify the e-waste generated in developing countries? So, again as I said earlier, the most reliable and accurate method will be when you go out and do sampling, collecting primary data. You go out and collect sample, you go and talk to the e-waste recyclers, informal recyclers, and try to find out how much e-waste they are getting, what kind of e-waste they are getting, get some samples, and that will be the accurate way. Same thing applies for municipal solid waste, same thing applies for any other waste stream where you have to go and collect the data. That is the most reliable and accurate method. Other methods are there because of a estimate, because when you go out and collect data, that requires a lot of effort, that requires a lot of money, that requires a lot of time. So, at many instances we do not have time, or we do not have that much budget. So, we go for that input output analysis, which is also like material flow analysis and all that. Pankaj, what is the environmental impact if electronics are not disposed of correctly? Again, Mr. Pankaj, you need to listen to those videos carefully. I am really kind of makes me a bit sad actually. So, we have talked about it in maybe around half an hour or more than that. So, environmental impact, as I said earlier, you will have these chemicals leaching off. The chemicals have certain toxicity. So, if you consume contaminated water, you will get sick, and if the contaminated water is the plants gets exposed to contaminated water, the plants will die. If it is an edible plant, it can, some of those contaminants can be uptaken, as I was mentioning about the rice, or mercury in fish. So, Minamata Bay was actually mercury in fish, because that methyl mercury got into the fish, and we do not want, and then the people took that contaminated fish and got sick. So, those are the environmental and human health impact that we see if electronics are not disposed of properly. But again, I will strongly encourage you to go back and just listen. This is only a 4-week course. There are hardly 4 weeks means only 10 hours worth of video. So, you should listen to those videos carefully, and it's kind of explained in great detail over there. How do you recycle and dispose of electronic stuff? That is a Govind Lilhare, and his another one is, what are the procedures for university department to recycle electronic scrap? So, university department, as per the new rule, the e-waste management rules that we have, universities also have to have they cannot just dump their e-waste anywhere. So, once they have the e-waste, they have to probably what need to be done, you have to, since it is a scrap, you cannot just throw away the scrap, you need to have a tender where you will invite tender for who can take those scraps away, and based on that based on the charges and other stuff you will allot those tender. So, usually what happens is you will keep those electronics items for in a storeroom in your store and purchase warehouse or something for maybe 2-3 years, and once in 2-3 years you have enough, or if you have enough in 1 year, depending on how big your university or institute is, you just call for a tender and then give it to whichever party qualifies. So, that is how it is done, and that should be a authorized recycler. You just cannot give it to anyone as per the rule. Practically many times the authorized recyclers are not available. So, what then people have to come up with some sort of solution over there. So, that is how do I recycle dispose, we talked about that already. Tejas, laws to manage e-waste have been in place in India. Yes, it is already implemented. We talked about the law in our course in the class as well. E-waste management rules are there. It was if I remember correctly, it came in 2012, it was again revised in 2016, and then there was another amendment in 2018. So, it's a law is already there. Implementation of the law is still not 100%. There is a lot of problem in terms of implementation, which we kind of talked about here as well as in the class. Any recent landmark cases on e-waste responsibility liability? I do not remember that actually. That's I do not, there could be, you are talking about some NGT case or some lawsuits. I do not think so. We have not heard about that on electronic waste so far, because we are so much into, we do hear about solid waste, municipal solid waste, which includes electronic waste, and that way e-waste does show up, but there is no recent landmark or cases directly on e-waste. But see, there could, if there is some NGT, I am not aware. So, if you know of any, you can put that in the discussion forum, or you can Google it as well and you will find it whether it was there or not. But as far as I remember, I have not seen any NGT cases recently, but then see, I am getting old, so I may forget as well. So what items are considered e-waste? Look at the lecture. I will not answer it here, Mr. Sarda Prasad, because it has been explained in great detail in the lecture video. So, please look at that. Naresh Babu Kunche, why is it the course on e-waste management did not include e-waste policies from around the world apart from Telangana policy? So, see, this is a 4-week course. If you are, the courses are not there to kind of give you the entire information. The courses are there to like raise the curiosity level. In today's world, with your smartphone, with a computer, with like a websites available, if you are interested, you can find policies of Europe, you can find policies of US. As you are talking about the world policy, you can find the policies of India, any country that you are interested in. All those policies are available in public domain on their government websites and government or government affiliated website, depending on how it is set up. So, these are there, and policies more or less is similar. So, we talked about Indian policies and then we kind of left it for other policies. You can always look out and see that, but that's, see, you cannot cover everything in a course. So, you have to learn something on your own as well. So, if you are interested to know about policies for other countries, please go ahead and read about it. If you find something in that policies which bothers you, which you cannot understand, our discussion forum is already there for you to answer those questions. So, please do that, look at the policies. If you have any question, put it on the discussion forum and then put that link to that government policy that you are referring to, say if it is in US or Canada or wherever, so that we can look at it and we can make sure that you are interpreting it correctly. So, that much we can do, but we cannot really, then it will become an environmental law class rather than becoming an environmental engineering based course. So, then how to manage e-waste from our side, please sir, we wait for your suggestion. So, how to manage e-waste from your side? Just be ready to pay for it. When so, if there are companies, if you are living in big cities, there are already companies out there. They have their mobile apps and all that too, where e-Parishara, then we have Eco-Rico in Mumbai, e-Parishara in Bangalore. There are companies in Kolkata. So, if you just again Google, you will find those company names who are struggling to actually do a very good business. Eco-Rico and e-Parishara are done decently, but there are many companies which are not able to get enough e-waste to meet their capacity. So, be ready to pay for those e-waste disposal. Do not expect that every time you will give away a mobile phone, you will get some money there. So, that is one thing you can do, and then of course, find proper recyclers and give it to them. Do not give it to anyone just because you are getting few monies, few amount of rupees. You are paying those, we are getting those rupees, but tomorrow we will be paying those probably paying much more of those money to our medical doctors and to our medical hospitals, because as the environment it gets polluted, each one of us will get affected by that. Mukul, Bison, what we can do when a mobile and another electronic gets sick and turn into e-waste? Again, as I just said, find out proper recyclers and give it to them. Go to a mobile shop and you can give it to them as well. So, most of the mobile shops will be able to take it from you, and they are supposed to manage it with a authorized recyclers. Where can I find computer manufacturers, exchanges, tech bags and recycling information? Talk to the place where you bought from. As per the rule, as per the EPR concept, extended producer responsibility, these companies are supposed to provide you those information. So, there are government website. You go on government website to find out who are the authorized recyclers in your area. You will find their contact information. So, just say authorized recyclers Kolkata and authorized e-waste recyclers in Kolkata, you will find their contact details. You will find you will find a government list which had, I think we provide that in your course as well, which had more than something around 200 authorized recyclers all over India, which is there. So, you find the one which is nearer to you and contact them and give it to them over there. What types of major steps do we to control our e-waste in our college or home? See, that's a very many times this kind of question is asked, but say e-waste will be produced because we will use all these gadgets, we have to use these gadgets, that is a day to day survival. It is very similar to plastic waste, where plastic is there, we cannot really, we can reduce its use a little bit, but e-waste again, everybody wants to have a laptop, everybody wants to have a mobile, sometimes couple of mobiles, because signal problem is there as well, you have to have multiple SIM. So, that is why you end up having a lot of electronic items. Sometimes you have money, you want to buy it just because of you like it, and sometimes it is a necessity too. You cannot really do anything about that, and you have to use that. So, try to use it if you can minimize, try to minimize the waste, but at the same time, thing is that when it becomes a waste, you dispose it properly, and we talk about that what is the, as per the e-waste management rules, what is the responsibility of the individual citizens. That has been also explained in one of those lecture slides, lecture videos. So, look at that. As I said, you have to find the local recyclers and give your waste item over there. Sarda Prasad, again it comes back and says, why e-waste is a problem? Again we kind of talked about that already. So, e-waste is a problem because it can have a lot of heavy metals, organics and other stuff. Again, please look at those videos carefully, listen to those videos carefully and look at those slides carefully. Its answer is already there. Akash Gupta, are cathode ray tubes are hazardous waste? Again, for most part, yes, they are. CRTs come out to be hazardous waste, especially for lead. Hazardous waste, as we explained in one of those lectures, is especially when we talk about electronic waste, it is a TCLP test that we do, toxicity characteristic leaching procedure, and if you do TCLP on CRTs, they come out to be a hazardous waste for lead. So, yes, as per definition, they are hazardous waste. So, they will be hazardous waste. Mukul, from where we can get information on recycling and disposing any specific SIG device? I just mentioned, you go on just Google that e-waste authorized recyclers of e-waste in whatever area you are, and you will get a Government of India list which has close to 200 recyclers. Last time we saw that, it could be more now, and then you find out which one is nearer to you and you can use that information. Pankaj, why should e-waste be handled properly? Is it toxic? We already talked about that already. So, yes, I think I have already answered that question. Aditya Katre, what happens to the e-waste if not recycled through proper channel? If it is not recycled through proper channel, it ends up in the informal sector, those kabadiwalas and all that, which they just I will not say kabadiwalas, it is those informal e-waste recyclers. As I told you, just informal e-waste recycling, type type that word, type that phrase in YouTube, and you will find lots of videos talking about that. We mentioned about these in the lecture class as well. See how it is being managed. So it's that creates a lot of environmental problem in terms of the air pollution, soil pollution, water pollution. So that's because it's done in a very crude way. So that's the reason why it has to be done through proper channel. In fact, if you look at, I think I've shown you all those pictures from Japan, from China, from African countries, from some pictures from India as well, in terms of what is the improper e-waste management issues. Please look at those slides, please listen to those videos, and they have, in fact, most of the questions, nearly I would say 40–50% of the questions that been asked is already there in the lecture video. So it's so I was expecting to have kind of something newer that you are asking, but it's mostly what is already there in the lecture video. So please, it's only a 4-week course, doesn't take much time. So those of you who are really interested in this course, look at those videos, sorry, listen to those videos, look at those slides carefully. Kunal is saying that in which country has the most hazardous e-waste in the world? Again, when you say hazardous e-waste, unless it becomes you have to first find out whether that e-waste is hazardous or not. It's not that all e-waste will be hazardous. Some e-waste may not be hazardous as well. So, but if your question can be, if we delete that hazardous thing, and if you can just say which country has the most e-waste in the world, and that number also keeps on changing a little bit, but because of different countries, population and all that, but US you will find to be much higher on the list. Some of the ones which are much higher on the list would be USA, China is also pretty much high on the list. Then European Union, many times they are together as one. So Western European countries as a bulk, you will find them to be pretty high. Australia you will find to be high as well. So if you go by per capita, and then definitely US will be highest, and then you will see most of these developed countries to be much higher, because per person. When you go for total, then even country like in India, we produce a lot of e-waste because we have close to 1.4 billion people, and so that's the way how you look at it. But some of the top ones are mostly European and American countries, and then that list also keeps on. It's a dynamic list, keeps on changing. Saswat Mukherjee, sir, LCD, LED, CRT, what is more dangerous as e-waste? Again, that's very difficult to tell you right like this. See, anything we are not. You have to be careful because when you say something as dangerous, something as it is based on science, it's based on data. So once you have the data, so if you have the data and you look at the LCD, LED, and CRT data together, I would say most likely CRT will come out to be more like if you do the hazardous waste identification and characterization, CRT will probably top the list. And LCD, LED, there are different models, different varieties out there. So it's very difficult to actually tell you. You have to test those models out there. CRT we know has a lot of lead compared to LCD and LED. That's why like I can tell you that CRT will be higher, but LCD, LED, unless you take that model, you test it out in the lab, you look at the component, you cannot really tell them, but CRT will always be higher. So Sarda Prasad, how can cities drive a smart waste management solution? Is it necessary to improve waste management technique? Yeah, smart waste management solution, so you're talking about in general, I think it's not only e-waste, you are talking about in general of for the waste management. So they have to, again, I would suggest Mr. Sarda Prasad that you should register for that course that is that will be offered again in July. You can even watch the YouTube videos which is focused on waste management in general, but cities have to have proper collection system. It's the same stuff, like have a proper collection system, have proper treatment technologies, have a plants over there, have do a proper landfilling if needed, have waste to energy plants. So that's how they can improve it, get the cities, get the people's participation, and educate people that why it is important and all that. So that's what needed over there as well. Kunal, how many percentage of e-waste in India? So you mean out of total municipal solid waste, how much is e-waste? I think that number is close to around 8 to 10% if I remember correctly. So I have to look that up. Will tell you the exact value we'll put the exact value in the discussion forum on that question, like what is the percentage of e-waste, but my guess will be something around, like it would be slightly less than 10%, maybe around 7-8% might be over there. So we can put that number exactly, because again those numbers keeps on changing every more and more e-waste is being produced in India. Akash Gupta, how we can manage e-waste in large amount, we kind of talked about that already. Have a proper collection, do dismantling, do the precious metal recovery and all that. So that's what you need to do. Pankaj, what happens to the hazardous material removed from electronics during the recycling process? Like if you're talking about those metals and other stuff, we can recover it. We can recover it, and that becomes a product, and that product can go back to the market, which lead can be used for other applications, and those things can be done as well. So and then whatever is the waste that is produced, that becomes kind of part of the ATP, affluent treatment plant, and that affluent treatment plant will need to be treated. That will be like an industrial wastewater, and that needs to be treated before it can be drop off. It can be disposed. Rohit, how to become work data connecting and network? No idea. So I think you are typing your question for a wrong course. I don't know what you're talking about. You please rephrase your question, put it on the discussion forum. We are running out of time. We have only a few minutes left. If you can rephrase now, I'll try to answer. Otherwise, put it in the discussion forum and we'll answer there. But I could not understand your question in terms of how to become work data connecting and network. So Bhageshwari, what is the process of handling e-waste in India? I think we talked about that already. So that e-waste in India, what is the loss is, we talked about that, and then how it is being processed right now, we also talked about that. Most of the time it just goes to the informal sector where they are not handling it properly. Some places it is going to formal sector, but most of the places it is going to informal sector, and where things are being done in a very crude way, contaminating air, soil, water and all that. So that's that was the last question, unless we are almost there at the end of 1 hour. So it quite pretty interesting stuff, like a lot of we had quite a good number of questions coming out. Some again, I was in terms of the type of questions, many questions that you are talking about is already is covered in the course. So you need to look at those questions, like you need to look at those lecture videos and reading material very carefully. One last question just has come, that e-waste responsible for global warming. Yes, because what is global warming? Where you have all these contaminants going up and then creating all those global warming gases. So if you burn something which creates CO2, it creates SO2 and all that, SOx, NOx and all those, they will create global warming potential. So yes, it will create global warming, as it can contribute towards global warming and climate change. So anything improper management of e-waste will contribute to that. If you do proper management, you can even make Olympic medals from e-waste, which Japan has already done. So with that positive note, that if you do a proper e-waste management, Olympic medals can be made from that. Let's stop here. And if you have any further questions, please put it on the discussion forum. We'll be help you answer that. All the best for the exam, those who have registered for the exam. Thank you and good night.